Welcome to Reason for Truth, where the truth comes first, the reasons come last, but where we're always and constantly learning. Well, because when we stop learning, we stop teaching, or at least we stop teaching well. My name is Steve Garofalo. I'm founder and president of ReasonForTruth.org, ReasonForTruth.Bible, the host of the Reason for Truth YouTube channel and Reason for Truth podcast. That's a lot of Reason for Truths. Welcome to today's episode. Today's truth is that, listen, in pursuit of life is the pursuit of God. See, if we find God, all else follows rightly. See, things fall in place. Doesn't mean that life's perfect, that we're without pain or suffering, only that we find meaning and purpose in life. And that's today's truth. I received a like and a friend request really from Instagram by a person called Yasha in Croatia this week. Yasha's self-proclaimed mystic, but I like Yasha because Yasha is refreshingly honest, has no combative attitude towards the Christian faith. And while Yasha speaks to having a relative perspective on the goodness of the human race, kind of secular humanism, Yasha really understands that there's an ultimate standard out there. I think Yasha does. Yasha didn't say that. Certainly regarding the moral laws is where I derive that from and how we govern life. And Yasha sees good things from bad things. Helping other people is good things. Well, who says that's good? That's not a human thing. God states that it's good, and we in His image pursue things that are good, knowing that they're from Him and of Him. But anyways, pursuit. I'm going to encourage Yasha, never lose your pursuit of God in life, and that's for all of our watchers today and listeners. I received a note again from Yasha from Croatia on the social media, and it's a very beautiful photograph that caught my eye of a sunset. It's a red sky over the water, and a man in a small boat in the far distance. And this is what Yasha wrote in their explanation of it. And it says this: instead of photo title, without dollars, it's difficult to have a good job. Love, prosperity, and posterity. This, I believe, was the title of the picture. And then Yasha writes, a bit lengthy, but nonetheless, this person's title and description. Yasha went on to say, this is my photo from Island Rab, that's R-A-B, taken with the Canon PowerShot SX60 HS at the year 2018. It's a minimalistic photo, so maybe not everyone will like it. I thought it was awesome, man. You got to check it out. I'll give that link below here. This image represents me, but I believe some other people will feel the same or similar in the photo, that there's a person in the little boat is so far away from this little lighthouse. And then he says what the lighthouse is, his life goal. And then Yasha writes this: I can't find any better photo that can describe me from my gallery. When I was in high school, I didn't understand and I didn't think about materialism and capitalism. I was too young to understand and too naive. When you grow up, everything becomes crystal clear, because before a few years, I saw a Soviet movie, Ender Devaka, 1989, in which main female character Tanya Zaytseva works in a hospital in Leningrad, but after work she is a prostitute. She said that every profession is a prostitution and everybody is selling themselves the best way they can. Lawyers, architects, etc. And maybe she's right, Yasha wrote. You know, we are living in a crazy world. I don't see myself in this kind of world. It's very insightful from Yasha, and I think all of us, you know, certainly this is a worldview question, and I credit Yasha for being honest, because I think if we're all honest, we're all going to ask the same exact question. But again, Yasha wrote, I don't see myself living in this kind of world. Everything is moving around, bank credit, making profits. I think our world's very ill. Yasha, you're right. Yasha goes on to say, only we can cure it together. I think we can, but only in light of God and God working through us. Our world becomes like a huge supermarket. You can get everything for money, legal and illegal. Only money matters, not human values. That's interesting. Only money matters, not human values. That's Yasha's not values. That's what Yasha sees as the ill. How much I tried to reach my goal, I can't. Fisherman in this boat, in this photo, is trying to catch the light. But he's always too far. Will he ever reach his goal? And then he writes, P.S. I recommend you two beautiful songs, Russ Bullard, In the Light, and the Grace Jones, Corporate Cannibal. I would say the light, Yasha, really the true light is God. God is light. The Bible has many references that God is light. If you think about darkness, it's a lack of light. God, it's a lack of God. I want to respond no formally, though. Please allow me to comment, Yasha, on your comment, which is, listen, everything you mentioned legal and illegal. Just because something is legal, by the way, doesn't make it moral, and just because something's moral doesn't make it legal or illegal. So, and in response about the Soviet movie Ender Lovechka, 1989, in which the main female character, Tanya, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Zaisteva, works in a hospital in Leningrad, but after work she's a prostitute. And you said she says every profession's a prostitution, and everybody is selling themselves the best way they can, lawyers, architects, etc. We're living in a crazy world. I get that. My first I want to say is the meaning of life and the making of a living and making a life are very different. So let me repeat that. First, meaning, making a living, and making a life. They're very different things. Yasha, you went on to say that my photos from the Island Rab, and I'm going to go back to that, talk about meaning in life. But when you went on to talk about your shot taken with the Canon, the year 28 minimalistic photo, and you talked about the image being representative. Some other people may feel the same, of looking towards the light but can't hit their goal. And you said there's no better photo to describe yourself. Well, I want to say this because I think that's very insightful. I love your comment. I want to say true success, Yasha, is never to be found in money. Even in some sense, accomplishment, it can be, as long as the accomplishment doesn't become the meaning of the thing that we accomplish. True success, Yasha, is never to be found in money. It may seem like it in the immediate, but not in the long run. You know, I was watching an interview with the famous singer Andrea Bocelli. I just watching it yesterday, and he said, and I'm paraphrasing him, that money doesn't necessarily make you happy, but money, you can be happy with lots of money, but you could also be very happy without a lots of money. It is very true. Also, one can be happy with very little. Bocelli's Italian. I'm very Italian. Mom and dad both Sicilian. And, you know, I think Bocelli sees it that way because Italian culture certainly in general, and Andrea Bocelli, sees God and family as the true markers of success. A lot of times we pursue a career, our kids grow up without us, and at the end of the day, what we end up finding is that our kids grow up without knowing us. That's a failure. And at the end of the day, who really cares about how much money you made or did you climb the ladder? And some people say, well, that means a lot. Yeah, but at the end of the day, nobody really cares. Not even the people who own the company. You did what you did. You're only a rock star while you're helping people. That's the world. So those are the markers of success. I think that on the other hand, while Yasha, you feel so far away from your goal, I want to encourage you that, listen, you have a wonderful gift in photography. And I mean that. Furthermore, the secret success is in the journey. It's in the taking of the pictures. What happens when we reach the other side of the lake? Well, what do? We try to go get the boat and go climb, a bigger lake. That's part of the human DNA here. So what happens when we reach the other side of the lake? With the rowboat, well, that little boat looking for that light. Speaking here on Earth, we end up going for another lake. It's maybe a little larger, right? A little bit more difficult. But, we're speaking of heaven or a state of bliss. It's very different. Seeking God is a journey. So we want to go to the next lake, and we're trying to cross it. But that's the human effort. The God efforts to keep being in God's Word and seeking God daily. And I think you're personally on that journey. This is why so many people try to climb Mount Everest. Humanly speaking, they get addicted to the dream of utopia, this perceived existential utopia or nirvana or heaven, which doesn't really exist. It only leaves them more hungry for the next. Kind of like drugs. Utopia will be found only, and is only found only, in heaven through Jesus Christ, by the way. My online response was as follows to Yasha. I said, I need to go back and clean up my response. I typed it. It was kind of messed up. I was rushing in the morning, and I didn't double check it. Never do that. You get all kinds of thumbings going on. But anyways, having said that, I'll go do that. But I want to certainly respond verbally now. As part of my response is, hey, Yasha, thank you. I appreciate you are honest. This is what I wrote in part. Too many religious people out there. I'm a man who seeks truth in God. Goodness comes from God. God sets the ultimate standard for what is right and good. Anything else is our relative opinion. We seem to seek the same thing, which is meaning, which comes only from God. Who cares about the messiness of the journey? We all travel looking for the truth, and I'm touched by your post. Now, secondly, let me point out, let me now respond to more coherently this insightful comment that Yasha made, which is talking about the Soviet movie again, and remember the prostitution. I think it's pretty insightful because it speaks to the hopelessness that secular humanism really offers us, which is there's just nothing more than just making money and trying to do the best we can to make a living. So listen, a prostitute, a lawyer, an architect, all the same thing. But I'll say this, that, the certain professions are noble, certain ones are not noble. I'm thankful that you do not see yourself, first of all, Yasha, in this kind of world. I feel the same way. The Bible tells us in Hebrews 13:14, it says this, "For we do not have an enduring city here. Instead, we seek the one to come." I like to do Living Translation in this case, which I usually don't. It's a paraphrase of the Bible. It's not the Bible itself. And it puts it this way: "For the world is not our permanent home. We are looking forward to a home yet to come." That speaks well. Hebrews 13:14. Yasha, I hope you'll ingest that, marinate it, as my friend says, Derwin Gray. Furthermore, prostitution is never the best way for anyone. It may be an easy way for a short period of time, or the only way that we perceive, or what we perceive as the only way to the best way, but it's never the best way. Prostitution is degrading to the prostitute, to the person's humanity, as each of us, including the prostitute, was made in God's image. As the book of Genesis says, so God created mankind, that's men and women, in the image of God. So he created them, male and female, he created them. Pretty interesting. So we should never prostitute that. That's really something that will only degrade God, but also really ourselves. I was at my grandmother's funeral years ago. A man came up to my sister and I. My sister was 15 years of age, and he said, "Hey, there's nothing for nothing in this world, whether it's sex, a job, prostitution, or a friendship. There's nothing for nothing." I quickly pulled my sister away and brought some sense to her after I told him, "Hey, don't talk to my sister in that light. That's just wrong, man. What's the purpose? At my grandmother's funeral, don't disgrace God. Don't disgrace my grandmother." And I said, at the end of the day, I want to say that, you know what? God's eternal gift of salvation is for free. Really, the only thing we have to do is accept it. But also God's agape love. There's 4 different kinds. You got philos, brotherly love, you storge. You have eros, which is the erotic sexual, and then, which is really what a lot of people mix up with true love, is sexual love. Then you have God's agape love. God's agape love is unconditional. It's only offered by God. It's unconditional truly, and it expects nothing in return ever. And God, outside of our accepting him for that salvation, but God's love is always there for us unconditionally. It's called unconditional agape love. So this free gift of salvation was provided by Jesus Christ on the cross so that no man would perish. I would say no man or woman. 2 Peter chapter 3 is clear, and it says, "The Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, as some count slowness, is patient towards you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance." 2 Peter 3:9. There are noble and non-noble ways of making a living. A college degree and making a lot of money has zero to do with, character or nobility, although those things are good. How you use money can be. My online response to Yasha was, I believe in capitalism with biblical principles. Capitalism allows me and allows many to serve God freely. But your point is well taken, Yasha. I see the same thing, that people abuse capitalism for greed, overgreed, and really abusing and using people. And companies often strip families of family-work balance. It's true of public companies in many cases. And I live for the next world and see my mission in this world as meaning in life, to serve God, family, and friends, and others. And in that order, by the way. But I love your post, Yasha. I want to say that Yasha has real depth, and that's rarely seen. My father's from Sicily. My mother's is Sicilian. Her grandparents are from Marsala. And I love to be, as an Italian, with others. It's intoxicating to be in fellowship. And listen, I work hard for God and family through my capitalism, and that gives me, hopefully in years to come, the ability to work a little less hard and just sit with people to absorb the connections of the human relationship as God created it, unfettered by this fast pace, this sinful nature driven by money. I hope this makes sense, but many blessings to you, my friend, Stephen. That's what I wrote. I want to say this, Yasha, never lose your pursuit of God in life. King Solomon says in Ecclesiastes chapter 2 in the Old Testament, it's called wisdom literature. He says this, Then I considered all that my hands had done, and behold, all was vanity and striving after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. That's Ecclesiastes 2:11. Later on in verse 24, Solomon concludes his thought in that we are to enjoy and to be content with the providences of God. So let me close with Ecclesiastes 2:24-26, which says this: a person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. This too I see is from the hand of God, for without him who can eat and find enjoyment? To the person who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. It's Ecclesiastes 2:24-26. Remember, God himself tells us there's nothing better but for us to eat and drink. That's not called getting liquored up or getting hammered. That's talked about just eating and drinking good things, eating, enjoying some of the life and the work that God has given you. And the work in this situation that has been given to Yasha, that art of your gift of photography is from God. I'm just telling you, keep it up. Listen, your giftedness in photography stems from your journey towards and for God. You may call yourself a mystic, but I see you as an authentic seeker of God. I say this as a compliment so that, listen, we're all on a journey to seek God. And as a believer in Jesus Christ myself, I have found him. And the journey is now focused on gaining a deeper pursuit of God in the person of Jesus Christ. I'm going to be praying for you, and you have depth, skill, and a good heart to seek the true God. I hope you'll find, get on bended knee and profess Jesus Christ, your full faith. I promise you, he's going to meet you where you're at. You're going to find a lot of answers. Doesn't mean life's going to be bliss, but life will be peaceful and things will make more sense to you. That I promise. From here and then into eternity, we'll be able to fellowship. So thank you again for sharing your God-given gifts with the world and with me, and for your comment and your friendship. I want to say this in my last words. Please remember that it's the journey. It's the destination towards heaven, towards God. God's interested in forming us through the journey and seeking him. You're right that we can get distracted. You're absolutely right. And we need to be content and let God raise us up. It's only found in a relationship with Jesus Christ that gets fulfilled. Nowhere else. I'm going to go ahead and put a link to Yasha's Flickr account there where you can view Yasha's photos. Listen, I like what Yasha said. I'm not religious. My favorite singer, Dino, wasn't religious too, to be collected money to help the poor children. So in other words, Dino wasn't religious, but I guess was a mystic kind of singer, but helped collect money for the poor. When he died, the Baptist church said bad things about him because he sung mystic songs. First of all, maybe a Baptist church said it. I don't think the whole Baptist church really is a reflection. But Yasha, I want to say, don't worry about that. Sometimes churches say things that are dumb. Let me share from you something my late good friend and mentor, Dr. Norman Geisler, once told me. He said, Steve, it's not Christendom, but it's often Christians acting dumb. Don't let that be a reflection on God when that happens. Let's be praying for Yasha. Yasha, I'll be praying for you. I hope this episode's made sense. As we as a sinful human race seek all perfect and all good and all powerful and all loving God in Jesus Christ. We're trying to make sense of that in this crazy, sinful world. Yasha's on the right trail. That's my prayer for you, my prayer for Yasha, my prayer for all of us this day, that we'd seek God daily more deeply. And if we haven't accepted him, we'd get on bended knee and do that today. Hey, listen, as always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I promise you I'll get back to you within a reasonable amount of time. If you happen to be listening on iPod or iTunes, give us 5 stars. It'd be appreciated. But if you're a YouTuber, you're watching this, man, couple things. Tell your friends about us, and be it a YouTuber, there's a little thing down there at the bottom. I always talk about it. You know what it is? It's that little bell. Boom! Want to give it that Sicilian left hook, man? Bam! Knock that thing out and just hit the subscribe button. You're not going to miss anything. You don't want to miss any of these. That's for sure. Listen, I'm going to see you guys for the next Reason for Truth episode. I'm your host, Stephen Garofalo, and this is your Reason for Truth for today.